Organisers of the Cape Town Marathon say today's race had to be cancelled at short notice due to overnight winds that caused major damage to race infrastructure. The decision was made after safety assessments with all relevant agencies. About 24,000 runners were set to start running this morning at 6:15, with many already at the venue or at least on their way when the cancellation was announced. To help us understand the weather patterns, we are now joined by our meteorologist Mduduzi Mthembu, who's in studio with us this morning. So, disappointment across the board, Mdu, as you heard there in conversation as well. I see you've drafted some, graphs for us to get a better understanding of what might have led to this cancellation. But I see also there that winds in the morning are up to a speed of about 40 kilometers per hour, with them dying down a bit in the afternoon. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it was the situation earlier this morning. The winds were very strong coming from the southeast direction, and then it subsided as the morning progressed. And for the day in the afternoon, the winds will not be as strong, but then come back later on in the afternoon. We're expecting, by the evening, we're expecting the winds to intensify once again. This is actually typical for this time of the year in the Western Cape, including over the city of Cape Town, where there are a series of passing cold fronts, and then behind the cold fronts there is a system that we call a region high pressure system, which is also resulting in very strong winds behind the cold front, and therefore that is what we saw in Cape Town. And in my opinion, if the organisers had been in contact with the South African Weather Service in advance so that they can get the prediction, because the South African Weather Service has offices throughout the country, including over the city of Cape Town. There are sensors on the ground that will be able to tell us what the situation is.
You know, exactly what you are saying now is a question that I actually asked our Vanessa a bit earlier on, in terms of the organizing committee and just how privy are they usually to things such as the weather forecast, because you would assume that having an event on this much of a grand scale, it means that you'd make sure that, you cover all bases, especially when it comes to the weather, knowing Cape Town weather and its unpredictable nature. Do you think this could have been prevented?
Well, in my opinion, I think it could have been if they did make the use of the Weather Service. You'd remember that the South African Weather Service is a government entity which is responsible for such kind of information, and it's free of charge. So they could have been in touch with the Weather Service and got the forecast well in advance. But I also understand the decision to cancel the event. You'd remember that the strong winds are not only affecting the recreational activities such as the marathon, but also creates environment that are conducive for the spread and development of wildfires and settlement fires. And therefore, the disaster management would not be would have to split their forecast between the marathon and also be on standby in case there are fires that spring out in the Western Cape.
And what are the possible implications of perhaps even, disregarding such a weather forecast? Because, we've seen the damage that some of the Cape Town winds have done over the past through social media as well, with people just trying to go about their daily commute, and all of a sudden, wind is just blowing. What are some of the implications of disregarding such weather forecasts, particularly where wind is concerned and its impact?
Well, the consequences are dire. In fact, it's not just only about the athletes or the people on the ground. It also has legal implications. So if you are organizing an event, of course you need to check all the areas that may cause you problems, including the weather. So to be on the safe side, it is always recommended that you take the advice from the Weather Service as the authoritative voice of the government in terms of weather information in the country, and make use of that information, because you may find yourself in a situation where you are legally liable for organizing an event without using the services of the Weather Service, and then put people in danger. But the implications of ignoring weather forecast and warnings has dire consequences, not only on the athletes themselves, but also the local government there in the Western Cape.
And we heard there some people are even preparing to pack up and go. We heard from the lady there who had a chat with Vanessa, who said that she'd be heading back to Joburg after her morning race. And as you can see, those are some of the live visuals we are bringing for you this hour, with the race's CEO out there addressing some of the concerns. And I would imagine that some of the entrants actually want to know what's going to happen now going forward, insofar as possibly those medals are concerned, but most importantly, possibly being reimbursed. But we are told that there is a policy to that effect, and they're likely not to get those refunds, as we heard there, that now preparation for next year's leg of the race has just started. And just a quick one, Mdu, on what is, how's Cape Town's weather looking like going forward throughout the day?
So, in terms of the weather itself, the only issue here was the wind. Otherwise, it's a sunny and beautiful day. Just because of the strength of the wind, that's why they had to cancel the event. But as you can see here, the winds were stronger earlier in the morning, like overnight into the morning, and then subsiding during the day. And the temperatures are not bad either. They would have been very conducive for the run at 23 degrees. And then as the day progresses into the evening, the winds will pick up once again. But if the planning was properly done using other agencies, including the South African Weather Service, perhaps they would have planned to have the race during the day rather than earlier in the morning or not in the evening. But during the day would have been the perfect time to have the race today.
Mduduzi Mthembu is our meteorologist right here at the SABC. We must thank you so much for your insights this hour and giving us a bit of perspective on the weather front there, so far as that Sanlam race cancellation is concerned. That's Mdu for us there. And of course, let's bring back those live visuals coming from Cape Town this hour, as we saw a bit earlier on with the CEO of the marathon engaging some of the participants there. I would imagine also just addressing some of their concerns. And they had issued a statement as well just a short while after 8 a.m. this morning, addressing some of those concerns. And part of it also read that the decision to cancel was made after emergency meetings of the race organizing team, and this was in conjunction with the Joint Operations Committee consisting of disaster risk management, safety and security, medical services, as well as the SABC. Both the venue and route were deemed unsafe for runners and spectators, and the difficult decision was made to cancel. And this is a developing story this hour, as reaction also continue to pour in from some of those participants who were at least hoping to participate in this race today. Vanessa Puna continues to monitor those developments.